Hello and welcome back. This is Dawn with another video for Honeybee Stamps. Today we're going to be creating a trio of cards all centered or all featuring the Lovely Layers Small Suitcases die. Now for the first two cards we'll be adding in the Lovely Layers Globe. The small suitcases, of course, we'll be using the Lovely Layers at the Beach. I'm also going to be using the Ticket to Ride stamp and coordinating die, along with Plain Awesome and its coordinating die. And then on one of the cards, we're going to use the Airmail 3D embossing folder in the background. So I'm going to start by putting all of my pieces out on my cardstock here and then die cutting them. I'm using a combination of Spellbinders cardstocks here. I believe I'm using Barely Peach, Peach Sorbet, Dahlia, Portobello, their brushed gold cardstock, and then I'm also going to use a little bit of sage in there. So this color combo is one of my favorites. It's a beautiful, beautiful color combo. Now, like I said, I like to take all of my pieces, lay them out onto my cardstock, tape them in place, and then cut them down to size. This way I can do all of my die cutting, or at least most of my die cutting, in one pass. I can also keep these taped together and then just replace them on top of new cardstock to cut multiples if need be. So once I've got them all on my plate here, I'll just send this through my die cutting machine, and then I'll just transfer all the pieces over to my grip mat over here, and I'll group all of the items together that belong together. So every piece that I need to build each element, I'll group them together on my grip mat. Again, this just makes it really quick and easy to put my elements together when it's time. So with all of my pieces laid out, I'm going to add a little bit of shading, or it's not really shading. I'm just going to distress the edges a little bit. Nothing too fancy here. And for that, I'm using the little small detail blending brushes from Honeybee Stamps and Distress Oxide and Gathered Twigs. Again, just a quick swipe of color around the edges. And you could totally skip this step if this isn't your cup of tea and just keep your die cuts nice and clean. This is an easy way to just add a little bit of interest though without having to get too detailed with ink blending your die cuts. It's a nice shortcut to start with colored cardstock. As I go, I'm going to assemble each of these. You could always do all of your distressing of the edges first and then do all of your assembly. And I think at some point I do switch over to that method, but to begin with, I was doing it as I went. So I'm going to walk you through assembling at least one of these suitcases here because they're very simple, and the Honeybee Stamps does have a layering guide on their website. So if you order directly from them, you will get a layering guide that's printed, but if you happen to order from one of their retail stores, then you can absolutely just go into honeybeestamps.com and download and print out one of the layering guides. These are simple to figure out. There are a lot of little pieces, but again, like I said, very simple to figure out. You've got your clasps, you've got your luggage, your base of your suitcase, then you've got different clasps on each one. You've got the little corner protectors on the luggage corners, and then on some of them you have like little locks or latches, and then you have your handles. These are so much fun to play around with. I had a really good time playing with the different color schemes. I ended up with a feminine version and a masculine version for this video, but you could also use printed pattern paper. That would be really cute. There's just a whole lot of fun to be had with these. Now, originally, I knew these were cute, right? You see them, they're adorable. Anything miniature is adorable. Anything when you put it together with paper, it's just adorable. But, you know, they can be limiting. It's luggage. You're like, well, what if you don't travel a lot? Or when would I send a card to somebody who's traveling? So I really wanted to come up with some ways that you could use the luggage and incorporate it into a card giving occasion. So I thought for this one, it would be fun. I was thinking, what if you had somebody who was just graduating high school and going to college? This would be something where they were going off on a new adventure. You could use it for somebody who is moving, or a card maybe if you want to send out your new address because you've moved. Suitcases would be great for that. Maybe somebody's studying abroad or they're transferring jobs and they're going to a new location. I just think that this is a very versatile set. At first glance, it may seem limiting, but again, I'm going to show you a couple of ways here in today's video that you can incorporate this into everyday occasions. And then I have other ideas. But if I don't get around to making videos for those ideas, I will definitely create the cards and then post the still photos on my blog as well as over here on the community tab, because I do have some really out of the box ideas for using these suitcases. So here you can see I'm putting the little corner protectors on our suitcase, and then the only thing I have left to do for this one is to add those little locks. And those little locks I've cut from Spellbinder's brushed gold cardstock, I believe it is. I'll have it linked down below. And look at how stinking cute this thing is. I just cannot with how adorable it is. Okay, so I went ahead and assembled the rest of the suitcases, and now we're going to add in the, what is this one? Lovely Layers globe. So I'm going to use a couple of things from this set. We're going to use the globe, we're going to use the little sign, and we're going to use, what else do we use from here? I think just the globe and the sign. And just like before, I'm going to go ahead and set all of my pieces up so that they're ready to just run through my die cut machine all at once. However, there's something a little bit different we're going to do with this set. We're going to use a technique that I saw, it was one of our design team members on the Honeybee team. She inked up the die with sponge daubers and oxide ink and then ran that through the die cutting machine. And what this did was it pressed the color into the die cut, and it was absolutely magnificent. Now she did it with a floral, and it was, like I said, absolutely magnificent. And I'll have it linked below who exactly it was, because I do want to give credit where credit's due. But I decided that for the globe, this would look great. And also where our little sign here, we've got 3 little planks. One says, it's time for new, and then the third one says adventures. So this will deboss these words into the cardstock, and I thought that inking them with a little bit of this gathered twigs and then kind of faux letter pressing it into the cardstock would make it more legible, and then it's really going to tie in with our sentiment as well. So I thought that this was a great technique to use for these dies, like I said, especially since it is a text that that's meant to be read. So if you haven't given this a try, I highly recommend it. It works really well with the oxide inks, and I didn't have any trouble with the transfer. Now you do want to be careful once you lay it down. You don't want it to move or shift around, and then tape it into place so that, again, it doesn't shift when you send it through your die cut machine, because you want that ink to transfer cleanly. So we'll run that through our die cut machine, and then here you can see how it's impressed and transferred the ink onto that die cut, and now it's much more legible than it would be if it was just blind embossed in there. And again, here you can see with the globe, we've got that ink transferred, which gives some delineation between the rest of the globe and the land masses. So just like before, I'll just distress these edges and then assemble our die cuts, and then I've got another set of die cutting to do. I know, I'm sorry you guys. We've got one more, I think just one more set of die cuts to do, but we're only going to do them this once. We do have 3 cards, but I wanted to show you the first card with most of all of the elements and how to assemble them, and then any repeats I will cut out for the next cards. And honestly, I didn't intend to create 3 cards when I started this video. I actually only intended to do the one, but it kind of, they just morphed, and I ended up with 3 cards. I had to make myself stop basically because I ran out of time. But like I said, I did have other ideas. So I'm going to try to do another video. Now, that brings me to my question of the day. So I was watching an interview. I believe it was Bridget. Words are hard, you guys. Okay, so I believe it was Bridget from Altenew, and she was doing an interview, and she had asked if they were a architect or a gardening card maker. And at first I was like, huh? But she explained that an architect kind of made a plan. Going into a card, they picked their products, they made a plan, and then they executed the plan. Whereas a gardener usually just has like a little seed of an idea, and then they just see what organically grows from there. And I was like, yeah, I'm definitely a gardener. I am definitely a gardener, which is which is why it tends to take me so long to create a card, but also why I end up with multiple cards. Okay, so speaking of that third die set, this is the Lovely Layers at the Beach. We're going to use a couple of the elements from here to sprinkle around our little suitcase stack and, just fill out our little scene here. Now, I do end up switching out that globe. The globe ended up being too light for our final card, but I do end up switching that out, but you'll see that at the end. So I've done all of my die cutting here. I've used a cream colored cardstock for the little handbag here. I've also done the hat and the book page itself in that cream color, and then I used the Portobello for the base of the book, and then our little details for our hat and what will eventually be a detail on our bag, I've cut that from the Dahlia cardstock. And then the sunglasses there I cut from, I think it's slate and then the brushed gold cardstock. I'm adding that little bit of shading to each of my elements here. You can see now I've switched over to just doing all of my shading before adhering, just made it go even faster. I'm being a little more targeted this time with the hat. I'm adding some shadows where the hat would dip just to give it a little bit more form. I, again, could have just went around the edges. If you don't like doing the shading, you know, you can skip that part. I enjoy it. I enjoy it a whole lot, in case you're new here. So I couldn't resist. Once all my shading was done, it was just time to do my assembling. So here we have this little ribbon that goes around the base of the hat. We're going to assemble that. And then the top layer of the hat, I mean, you could get away with just using this top layer, but there is a back layer, so it gives it just more dimension. You'll adhere that on top of the back layer of the hat. However, I'm going to reserve gluing that together just yet because I'm actually going to place the hat on top of the globe, so I don't want it glued flat. I'm going to be able, and I'll show you that when I get there. Now for the detail on the bag here, I'm going to cut just a strip of this pink, and it's going to have all the same detail because I cut two of these, right? I cut one from white, one from the Dahlia, and then I'm just going to glue this in place to create this pink strip. This is going to pull that pink from the ribbon around the hat into the actual tote bag here. And it's just something that you can do to really customize your die cuts and have a little bit of fun. So at this point, I still wasn't really sure where this card was going. I had that, again, that little seed of I wanted to do this little suitcase stack with the globe, but it hadn't really started to flourish into a full complete idea just yet. I knew I would need some things to sprinkle around, which is why I cut these extra things. And I do believe I end up using all of these, but I always cut extras, you guys know this, and I did put together these die cuts. So I do have a duplicate of almost all of these, which is how we ended up with our second card, because like I said, I'm kind of a gardening card maker. I have a few seeds, and then once I just kind of see where they grow and how it goes and everything comes together organically. So once I started putting this card together, I had another idea. And I just couldn't leave well enough alone, right? So I was like, well, I've already got the pieces cut, so maybe I should go ahead and make that second card. But we're jumping ahead here. So here I wanted to put this hat on top of the globe. So you'll notice that I put glue on the top of the hat and on the very corners of the hat. But inside there, I've left no glue so that I can slip this onto the globe and have the hat just sitting on top of the globe. So I was really liking how this was coming together so far, but now I needed to figure out how to bring it all together and what to do in the background. And I really wanted to use this new Airmail 3D embossing folder. Now, truth be told, the embossing folder is fantastic. I absolutely love it. Look at all of the detail in this. Now this looks especially good when you ink the folder and then do the embossing, especially if you ink the folder with multiple colors. No, that's not true. If you ink the background with multiple colors and then you ink the folder with a solid color, kind of like that Black Magic 3D embossing, but you could use any color. Anyways, gorgeous, gorgeous 3D embossing folder. But it actually wasn't my favorite background for these cards. I had trouble figuring out the background for these cards, but for this video's sake, for this card's sake, I was like, you know what, we're just gonna go ahead and go with it. I have some other ideas and we can work those out in subsequent cards because it's not bad. It still looks good. It just didn't turn out to be my favorite. Now, like I always do, I'm gonna adhere these with a mix of some foam adhesive and liquid adhesive. And I did this one. I wasn't sold on it still. I struggled with this first card, you guys. Look, I'm just being honest. I struggled with this first card, which is why I didn't use the press and seal technique to adhere. I wanted to reserve the right to make adjustments if I wanted to or to change things, and I didn't just want to adhere it all at once. I did end up putting it pretty much back in the exact same format, and again, I do like this card, just did not turn out to be my favorite. Now that we've got everything adhered, all I have to do is add the sentiment, and we will review this card at the end when we review all of the cards. So moving on to the next card. Now I already have a duplicate of all of those same elements in the same color palette, but I felt like I was missing white. I needed something white to contrast against that cream and those muted colors. So I pulled out the new Roadmap stencil, which I absolutely adore, and decided to use a little bit of Speckled Egg Distress Oxide ink through this. Now I'm not going to do a full solid inking. I'm going to do it kind of unevenly, but having this muted speckled egg with that pure white showing with the pure white of the lines, I think really this one I think turned out to be my favorite. Maybe my second favorite. I don't know. It's hard to choose between the second and the third. You guys, this happens to me a lot. Rarely ever is the first card my favorite. That's kind of where, being the gardener crafter, I kind of get all of my plants together, but I don't quite know the best arrangement for them. So I'll try the first time and then find the things that I don't really love about that. Maybe swap some things out, bring some other things in until I'm happy with the arrangement. So it's always the second or third card that I love the most because, like I said, I get to work all the kinks out of the design. So I wanted to add something to the background of this little collage, and I grabbed the Ticket to Ride stamp and die. And I'm going to cut a couple of these tickets and stamp a couple of the images onto them. Now they have a blank ticket. They have 4 different designs that you can stamp onto the ticket. And I'm going to grab the train and the airplane one, and I'm just going to stamp this in black archival ink. So I really liked the way that the black stamping also tied into the sunglasses, the black shades of the sunglasses. I think that these are so much fun and they can be used in so many ways. You would typically look at this and think that it is a very vintage or grungy type of stamp set, but honestly, I've paired it here with something that isn't grungy. It's got a little vintage vibe to it, but it's definitely not grungy. And I think that it works perfectly. Of course, you could also make it super grunge, super masculine, however you want to use it. I just think that it's super versatile and I really, really love this set. So I went ahead and stamped and cut another one, the one with the little train thing. I'm going to layer these behind my focal point here. And the second one here, it pokes out the bottom, so I'm just going to rip off that tag and eventually I'm going to put it back up at the top. But I'm going to layer these together underneath that focal image, and I really love the way this looks. And since I was happy with it, I went ahead and adhered everything using my press and seal method. You guys have seen it a million times, so I went ahead and skipped that part. Here you can see I'm trying to work in that extra piece of tag, and I thought maybe it'll go down here, and then I can use a sentiment from Plain Awesome. But I really, really wanted to use that Time to Go die cut sentiment. And that's from the Time to Go postcard die set. Now this is a large die set. You have 4 postcard size dies here, and then you have these postage stamp dies as well as some label dies. There's great etching on here to create that postcard look, but I really wanted to use this Time to Go die here. And when you cut this die, all 3 of the words are connected, but I just cut mine apart so that it would better fit my design. And all I had left to do was adhere it. So let's go ahead and review this at the end of the video. And for now, let's jump into our last card. Okay, so this one is the runner-up for my second favorite, maybe first favorite. I don't know. I wanted to make a masculine card, so I've already gone ahead and done our suitcases. And now we're going to use the summer cabin to create a scene on top of the suitcases. So my thought process was this would be a great card to gift either an experience or a trip. So if I were to plan a weekend getaway for my husband and his friends to go fishing, I could put like the VRBO agreement inside this card or something like that. So I grabbed that summer cabin die set, which I hadn't had a chance to use yet, and I absolutely love it. And I went ahead and I used the exact same process that I used on the previous cards. I just die cut my pieces. I did a little bit of distressing around the edges, not too much, but I really love this card. Like I think that this would be so much fun. You could create a little Christmas scene on top of the suitcases and do like there's no place like home for the holidays. I know Honeybee has a stamp set with that exact sentiment, or I'll be home for Christmas. I think that that would be absolutely adorable as well. Perhaps you want to take the fam on a tropical vacation. You could do the beach houses and the palm trees on top. There's so many options, and I think that this is just a great little layout and a lot of different things that you could do with it. I don't know, maybe I'm crazy, maybe it's just me. Let me know below. What do you think? Now for my husband, it would be a fishing trip. So of course, Honeybee has me covered there as well. I went ahead and I pulled out the Lovely Layers rod and reel set. So you can see here we've got a fishing pole, a tackle box, a fish. I just pulled out the fishing pole and the tackle box. I've already done all of my die cutting. All I have to do now is put these together and adhere them to my card. Now you might be going like, Dawn, your scale is crazy. Your pole is humongous. Your house is tiny. Your luggage is not compatible with any of this. And you would be right. However, for some reason, it works. I promise you. You put it all together, it just gives it this feeling of whimsy, and it just works. Don't be afraid to try different things together, you guys. You never know what it looks like until you try it together. Like, look at this. Come on. Look at how cute this is. Like, I love it. That's this fun little play on perspective is one of the things that is really making it hard for me to choose my favorite here, because I am really loving this and I can't wait to do other scenes like this in different color palettes. It was so hard to decide. So let's go ahead and review all of the cards now, and you can let me know which one is your favorite. So here we go. This is the first card that we created. This is where we kind of worked out all of our kinks. I do really like how this turned out. Here you can see where I replaced that globe with a little bit more of a blue and a green. I just felt it stood out from that background just a little bit more. And that extra little ticket piece, I went ahead and stuck behind our bag here. And I do like the way this one turned out. I added some distressing around the edges, and I think that helped on the background. Here was our second card. Come on. So good, right? So good. This background was perfect for this, and that time to go, I just really love that bold sentiment there in the middle of this busy kind of collage, but it just works. It works so well. And then this one led me to our third card, and I am so tickled with how this turned out. I really can't wait to do different ones. Imagine if your husband was like, or your significant other, your wife, somebody was like a hunter. Like, there's all kinds of little scenes that you could create here. Like I said, the beach cabanas from this release would be great. Love it. Here in the background, I finished this one off with the Into the Woods 3D embossing folder, and I think it was the perfect complement. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed today's video. I hope you enjoyed a closer look at the small suitcases. As you can see, that was the die that tied all of these together. So I had so much fun playing with it, and I have so many more ideas. And I hope that you had fun watching today's video. Hopefully it gave you some ideas. If so, don't forget to give this a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, make sure that you're subscribed so you don't miss any future videos. If you're looking for any of the supplies, remember, they'll be in the description box below. And as always, I want to thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Bye.